Too close to call, the race from the White House is far from over, but both candidates are confident.
I'm here to tell you tonight, we believe we're on track to win this election.
We will win this, and as far as I'm concerned, we already have won it.
Well, back home, Home Affairs and Law Minister Shanmugam tells Parliament the AGC had sufficient evidence to prosecute former helper Parti Liyani.
And a huge relief for her family. An 8-year-old girl who was injured in a car crash wakes up after 11 days in a coma.
Hello, a warm welcome to The Big Story, coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom. I'm Olivia Quay.
I'm Haryanto Dimana. You can subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode.
Let's begin with the latest on the US presidential election, which is still too close to call. In the race to 270 electoral votes, President Donald Trump has 213 votes, while his Democratic challenger Joe Biden has 220.
Now, back in 2016, at this point, news outlets had already declared a winner. But this year, the result still remains up in the air. As it stands now, the election will likely come down to 3 states, Michigan, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Now, whoever wins 2 of the 3 will probably be president.
Well, foreign editor Bhagyashree Garekar is here to talk about what has happened so far. So, Bhagya, it's just past 4:30 a.m. in Washington, D.C. after election, the morning after Election Day. Mr. Trump, as I said earlier, has 213 electoral votes, while Mr. Biden has 220. Where are we at now? I know it's a close race, but are there any indications of a winner yet?
Okay, so I think the first question, I have a very definite answer for you. And the answer is that we are in the waiting room, right? So we don't know, do we have a winner yet? No, we don't send a winner yet. But, you know, if you've been following the headlines and, you know, through your own live shows, our own live shows, we have reported that Trump has made, well, he has had a pretty good day, and he has made inroads. He has not had any major significant upsets so far. So all these are positives for him. He's also managed to retain the Senate. That's in Republican control, looks like. So I'd say it's good. He could be a winner, but then there's a chance for Biden yet. So far, none of them has reached that magic number of 270, as you say.
Right. So you're mentioning there's still a chance for Mr. Biden. Is that because, you know, of these mail-in votes, those mail-in ballots that have become really a talking point in this election?
That's right. So I think Biden's main hopes do rest on mail-in votes, because if you look at the couple of states, the blue wall that you spoke of, now if you look at those states, those are already trending towards Trump. So where does Biden's hopes lie? Right. They basically lie in a large percentage of voters whose votes have not been counted yet. Right. Mainly because they did not turn up on that day, they mailed in their votes. And the procedure for counting those votes is a little more time consuming. Right. You have to verify signatures, for instance. You have to look at the postmark to see whether they arrived in time. Yep. So it is a more time consuming process.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
So that is what is adding to this waiting period, which is why we don't have a result at this point.
Right.
It's a sure turnout.
You talked about how there are no major upsets for Trump.
Yes.
But so far, are we seeing any surprises?
All right. So surprises, I would say the biggest surprise for me personally was this, that there was no Biden wave. You know, if you were following and looking at the opinion polls, the national opinion polls, they told you that Biden did have a fairly comfortable lead. The other thing is the contested battlegrounds. Sure, you know that they were contested as well. But where is that, that strength for Biden? That hasn't come through so far. I mean, the caveat, of course, would be that a lot of votes, a lot of them are still to be counted. So, there is that, of course. That is one surprise. The second surprise so far, I think, is that it all went so smoothly, right? I mean, most places, they closed on time, polls closed on time. There wasn't any violence which was being feared. So I think that's a positive surprise too. One thing, the one state that Biden has flipped, which means that Trump retained the state and now it's voted for Biden, and that would be Arizona, which has been called with its 11 votes. Yep. So that now stands with Trump, with Biden. So I think that could count as a surprise, I suppose.
Okay. Well, we have been talking a lot about the 3 blue wall states, and it's something that we are keeping an eye out for, for the rest of the day. Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Our colleague Jeremy Au Yong said that if one candidate can win 2 out of 3, he will likely be the next president. So what's your take on this, Bhagya, and where does each man stand in each of these 3 states?
Okay, so now look at Biden. You said he has 213 votes so far. So let's say he has electoral votes. Trump has,
Yes.
sorry, so Trump has 213 and Biden has about 220, right? So look at Trump. Trump is now, what, 60 short of 270? About 60, let's say. And if you count these 3 states, the blue wall, they contribute to about 46 votes, electoral votes.
Yes.
And then you've got North Carolina, Georgia. So when you take these in, if they also trend for Trump and he wins, 2 of those 3 blue wall states, yes, then you can see a path of victory for Trump. That becomes quite clear. So yes, I mean, ideally for any of these, they would like to retain all 3, but quite likely it might be split. And I think in Wisconsin, it's especially close. So it's just about maybe 2% difference between the 2 of them. In the other 2, it's in the other 2 blue wall states, which is Michigan and Pennsylvania. Basically, you have Trump leading in both of them.
Yep.
So I guess we have to see. The caveat again is that Pennsylvania still has a large number of mailed-in votes. And it's been one of the states which doesn't actually even start counting the mailed-in votes until the day of the election. So it's a time-consuming process that we know, and they're only starting to count it, for the past 12 hours or so. So that's the reason we might have to wait. Plus the fact that these are very closely contested. So I guess each vote is going to be looked at carefully.
Right. So it's still going to be a long process,
Oh, yeah.
and days coming, waiting for the results.
Yes, it could be.
Right.
Yeah, so most of these votes are like maybe 60, 70, 80% counted.
Yep.
So when we say that, it's it's like a sampling of votes too.
Right.
So
yeah,
we
but
can
yeah, no,
expect.
regardless of who becomes the next president, he will have to bridge a deeply divided, deeply polarized nation. Now, how can this person, so to speak, heal the most contentious issues faced by Americans, whether it's the COVID-19 response, economy, or the issues of race, and so on?
Well, I guess it does depend on the man who wins, right? So as we know that Trump hasn't really made an effort to reach across the divide. And for all the polling data that's available, you know that the partisanship has been really high in all through the Trump years. It's been the highest on record if you look at some polls, to the extent that people say they wouldn't even consider dating a person who has voted for the other guy. So that's the extent of divide that, where it is. It is deep. But if the vote is clear, it's not as close. If there's still a path for there to be a clear, uncontested vote, it's going to be easier to heal that divide. If you see a vote where it's very close, where where either of the candidates resorts to going to courts, where it's prolonged, then the divide is going to be harder to breach. But that said, again, Biden seems to be, perhaps because of his politics, his personality, he seems to be the guy who might find it easier to reach across. But yeah, it is a matter of how the voters also look at the 2 candidates. So a unifying leader,
mates, perhaps with Kamala Harris and Mike Pence, maybe they can lend a hand in how this will go about as well.
Well, maybe not, because Kamala Harris, she's perceived to be even left of Biden. So if you imagine Biden as the most centrist within the Democrat, Kamala is more to the left of him. So possibly not with her. I think you would see Biden, who has very extensive experience as a politician, working with his colleagues in the Senate, for instance. He has experience of reaching out, making connections, wining, dining, all the things that it takes. So he might be the guy. Trump likes to stand his ground. He makes his position clear, and he likes you to basically accept him.
I
So yeah, I think that would be a challenge. Yeah.
Right. Well, you know, it's not just the presidential election happening today. We are also keeping an eye out for the battle for the U.S. Senate. So, Bhagya, what's the latest then? How will the results in that race pan out for, I guess, the governing of the U.S.?
Again, so Senate is very interesting. I think the Democrats were really hoping that they could seize control. But I looked at the figures just before coming in. It's still 47-46, which means that Republicans are likely to retain control of the Senate. It's a 100-member body. So what that means is, let's say the scenario of Mr. Trump being re-elected and politics being where they are, the hyper-partisanship being where it is. If there is a chance that because the Democrats are looking like they might control the House, once again they move to impeach him, they will not be able to carry it out if they do not control the Senate. If the scenario was that they control the Senate while Trump was being re-elected, there was a chance that they could have impeached him. There is that sentiment that you see, and it's been voiced before. So yeah, it is pretty interesting how it is. But if you look at the other way, let's say Biden wins and he does not have the Senate, meaning the Senate tends to be stays Republican. What that does is possibly maybe a better outcome in one sense, that for those people who fear that Biden's policies have been, economic policies especially, might tend to be a bit more regulatory, emphasizing on taxes. For those people, for the markets, this is a relief then, because you have the Republicans who will act as a check on the president. Right. So that is an outcome I think that the markets will certainly welcome.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Bhagya, for setting aside time to speak with us, to share invaluable insights on the U.S. presidential election, and it's still ongoing now, right? Results are not clear yet. It still remains up in the air. Now, we've been speaking to foreign editor at the Straits Times, Bhagyashree Garekar.
Well, visit straitstimes.com for developments throughout the day. On our live blog and microsite, you can find a state-by-state breakdown, news developments, analysis, as well as social media updates.
Meanwhile, in Parliament, Carl Liu, the son of the former Changi Airport Group chairman, has been investigated for perjury following a theft trial involving his family's former maid, Parti Liyani.
In his ministerial statement on the case, Minister for Home Affairs and Law K. Shanmugam said there were many aspects of Mr. Liu's conduct and evidence which were highly unsatisfactory and raised skepticism.
Carl has been investigated as to whether he committed any criminal offence, including perjury. Statements have been taken from Carl on the following points: whether the items highlighted by the High Court had been in his possession, his explanations for his inconsistencies during trial regarding these items. The investigations have been completed. A statement will be announced later this evening based on the investigations.
The case had previously sparked an uproar, with MPs and others raising questions about the criminal justice system. Mr. Shanmugam said the case was handled as a routine theft case and there was no attempt by anyone to influence them.
In recounting the details of the case, he highlighted that there were good reasons and sufficient evidence to charge Ms. Parti for theft, and police investigators and prosecutors had assessed that she was untruthful. However, he admitted to lapses in the police handling of the case during the investigations, namely that photography of the allegedly stolen items was not done immediately as per protocol.
I am told that the officer involved had a number of other ongoing cases, prosecutions, arrest operations, and a very personal matter that he had to deal with. He seems to have been under a lot of pressure. He was in a predicament. It was a situation that many home team officers find themselves in. It's a reality of what our officers go through. Nevertheless, internal investigations are being carried out in relation to the conduct of the officers involved in this case, and action will be taken as necessary.
Also raised in Parliament today, Health Minister Gan Kim Yong said Phase 3 of Singapore's reopening could last a year or more. In response to MP Cheng Li Hui's questions, Mr. Gan said life during Phase 3 will not be a return to pre-COVID days.
He added that it would last until the rest of the world has the virus under tight control or when effective treatments or vaccines are widely available.
We must remain vigilant. Should there be a spike in cases, we need to respond swiftly and decisively. We cannot rule out the need to reimpose measures or introduce new measures in order to keep the virus under control. To continue on our steady path to Phase 3, each of us must play our part to adhere to safe management measures.
There were 7 new COVID-19 cases confirmed today. They included 5 imported cases who had been placed on stay-home notices on arrival in Singapore.
The remaining 2 were from the foreign worker dormitories. There were no new cases in the community. The Health Ministry will share more details tonight.
In other local headlines, the National University of Singapore said today that it had filed a police report on October 21st regarding allegations of sexual misconduct to fulfill its legal obligations. This in response to recent complaints by the 2 female students who accused former Tembusu College Don Jeremy Fernando of sexual misconduct. NUS clarified that it had tried to inform both students of its legal duty to make a police report and managed to reach one of them. Both students had told the Straits Times earlier that they were unhappy that the university informed them only after it had made the police report against Dr. Fernando.
An 8-year-old girl who was injured in a car crash last month woke up on Tuesday after 11 days in a coma. She had been in intensive care after she was flung out of a van in Woodlands. According to her father, she cannot speak or respond yet and can move only the left side of her body. She remains warded in the ICU at KK Women's and Children's Hospital.
The National Gallery is extending its free Gallery Insider membership promotion until January 31st next year. The promotion for the membership, which offers unlimited access to exhibitions and is worth up to $120, was originally scheduled to end in October. Membership is available for Singaporeans and permanent residents.
Now let's take a look at the global headlines. Europe passed a new bleak milestone after reporting more than 11 million coronavirus cases. According to a tally of official sources on Tuesday, the continent has now registered almost 285,000 deaths. Austria was among the latest countries to impose a partial lockdown following a deadly shooting spree in Vienna on Monday night.
Meanwhile, ISIS has claimed responsibility for that Vienna attacks. In a statement on its Telegram channels, the group said a soldier of the caliphate was behind the assault that killed 4 people. Austrian police had said earlier that the shooting had been carried out by a known Islamist extremist who had spent time in prison.
In response to the shooting, Britain has raised its terrorism threat level to severe. This also comes after recent attacks in France. Britain's Interior Minister said the change was made as a precaution, which now means an attack is highly likely.
Jack Ma's net worth has tumbled almost $3 billion after shares in Alibaba Group Holding plunged in New York and Hong Kong. That follows Mr. Ma's Ant Group saying its planned listings in both Shanghai and Hong Kong have been suspended. Even with a drop in his fortune, Mr. Ma still has about $58 billion, according to the Bloomberg Billionaires Index.
In other US election news, rapper Kanye West was a man of few words as he appeared to concede a loss in his presidential bid. He tweeted a picture of himself in front of an electoral map saying, "Welp Kanye 2024. He also posted a video of himself casting his vote in Wyoming where he wrote himself in on the ballot. He ran as a birthday party candidate in a dozen states, but failed to pick up even 0.5% of the vote in early returns. Well, better luck next time, Kanye."
Now, it's been a stressful day for some and actually a stressful year for most of us. So if you need ideas on how to decompress, don't miss the news section in the live pages of today's paper.
They're part of the Straits Times refreshed look in print. Every Wednesday, the Living Well section will bring to you the latest on health and wellness, including exercise, nutrition, and mental wellness.
Well, for more news and videos, visit straitstimes.com. The US Election Live blog and microsite are there as well.
Also subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below. Once again, I'm Haryanto Diman with Olivia Quay. Join us tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.